Um, well, obviously, a very tough game tomorrow. Looking back at the last game there, um, I thought that they certainly just blitzed us. I think our biggest problem as a team is when things don't go well on the court, we just don't know how to respond. And, I think we work hard in practice. I think we want to win. I don't think it's an effort. I certainly think that we get a little bit, we get really down on ourselves during the game. And that's something we're constantly talking about, that regardless of what we do from an offensive standpoint, it should not affect your effort, your energy, your spirit. And certainly that game did that. And it happens. I think that there's a lot of pressure on young guys today. I think you looked at like Iowa game last night and you sit there and go, God, how could that happen? And I just think it snowballs with kids mentally. And it's something that we're constantly harping on to get better at. It's when young guys like that happens a little bit. And just keep trying to get better at it, obviously. So tough one tomorrow. Great offensive team, very talented team, fast pace. So we've got our work cut out for us, but it's good to get back home. Big thing with our guys is just when you make a mistake, get over yourself and get back on defense and just keep playing hard.
What concerns you more, your offense or your defense?
True. Probably both. I don't think either one's real good right now. I do think from an offensive standpoint, I don't think we have personnel that necessarily fits each other a little bit in the sense of we're struggling a little bit with the 5 spot of throwing the ball in there. I think Bakari's growing. He's getting better, but it's not perfect. That's not necessarily his fault. He's just, he's young and raw. I think that guys are losing confidence when they shoot the ball, but I don't think we're a naturally great shooting team. So there's a couple recipes for disaster there from an offensive standpoint. So we're still working on it. I mean, I do think the defense is affected by the offense. So I think if the offense gets better, I hopefully would assume that the defense get a little bit better. But I think all aspects concern me. I think you left out rebounding too. I'd put that one in there. We haven't been turning the ball over that much, which I guess little victories each day. So
there hasn't been one thing in particular you've been focusing on more in practice. You're, pretty much giving equal time to offense, defense, rebounding.
I would say we focus probably more on defense, but I think a lot of it is getting them to understand when you make a mistake, when you don't like a call that the ref makes, when something happens, responding. I think it's all about responding. We probably had, after that Nebraska game, one of the best practices of the year. But then when the game starts, how are you going to respond? So we've kind of – it's been a lot of consistent defense, rebounding, and those things, but I think it's a little bit of everything just kind of compounds itself during the game.
What made it one of the best practices of the year?
Spirit, a lot of effort. I thought guys understood. They weren't feeling sorry for themselves. I think they understood, that the only way to do this is to work hard. It's the only way to get out of this rut. I mean, it's you can't feel sorry for yourself. You can't. We don't have a lot of guys who are offensively having very good years. Maybe Murph would be the one. So when you have that, I don't think it's a recipe for guys being very confident. So we're just talking about you got to work. That's it. You just got to keep working, and the guys did that. So that was nice to see.
Do you think that they were embarrassed at all about just the lack of effort that they showed at some points last game?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're embarrassed about everything. I think the natural thing with fans, with media, with everybody is, oh, you're not working hard. That's natural, and I understand it, but we work extremely hard. I mean, we work extremely hard in the weight room. We work extremely hard in practice. I think they're probably embarrassed about how they react when things don't go their way, whether or not it's a turnover, foul trouble, missed shot. I think they're more embarrassed about the mental part of it than the physical part of it. I think the mental part is getting in the way of them fighting. And, I think they just need to understand this is where we're at. We still got a bunch of games left. We still got a lot of things that, we could turn this season into something good. We've still got a lot of things, in my opinion, to be excited about. I know it looks bleak, but, I look at the young talent that can continue to get better. There's a lot of guys in the roster who are not maxed out by any means. That's nice to see, as well as the guys sitting out. So I think they're certainly embarrassed. Yeah, anytime you lose, 25 points, 2 games in a row, you're not going to be real confident. You are going to be embarrassed. So hopefully they come back tomorrow and they walk on the court confident, because they have a lot to be proud of. I mean, obviously not this season, but they individually should hold themselves to a high regard and not let anybody take their spirit away. That's something we've talked about a lot too.
Richard, do you think they understand that? I mean, it can be hard to be in the middle of it and struggling and not be able to see the forest for the trees kind of thing.
I think they understand it. I think there's a lot of times throughout the course of the game they don't know how to figure it out from a mental standpoint. And obviously as a coach, you got to try your butt off to get them to understand it. I think a lot of what we talk about is helping each other out on the court. I think there's a lot of elements. Playing on the road, obviously, is very difficult for a young team. Even playing at home, when you know your fans are frustrated with you, you're a bit embarrassed by your play in front of your own fans. I think all those things to get them to say, okay, stay confident, stick with it, believe in what we're doing. We're going to break through eventually. So it's. I think they need each other. And, the other thing, too, I talked about with them, they have a lot more support than they think they have. I think that they, human nature, part of it is like, oh, our fans don't like us anymore. I think our fans like us. Maybe there's a couple people who don't, who are the loud minority. But I think our fans believe in us still. We know we got to get better, but getting them to understand we still got great support. I talked to them yesterday. I said, guys, what was our last home game? Northwestern. And we're not playing well. We still probably had 9,000 people. And we're not playing great. We've got great support. Yeah, there might be a couple people who are frustrated with what we're doing, but we've got great support. Be appreciative of those people. Don't focus on those, that loud minority that I like to talk about. So it's helping each other on the court, I think, to answer your question, as well as me trying to get them confident. It's all those things.
Is it just your voice? Have you brought in a sports psychologist?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, I think we talked about we talked about that this morning. I think that I'm open to that, absolutely. I'm open to other voices. I'm always open to that. Thought about bringing in some former players locally because, there's a lot of guys, former players who've gone through these times. Like Richard Coffey called me the other day and put a smile on my face. He said, Coach, I went through this, and the next year went to a Sweet 16. He said, we lost 20-something league games in a row. Now, it must have been from one year to the next would be my assumption. Or if he was making me feel better, I don't know. But he said, I've dealt with it. And he said, we believe in what you're doing. Tell those guys we believe in them. So it's getting, I think, people locally to do that, as well as thinking about some sports psychology things. I do think, too, it's young guys just being able to grow up on the court and going through it a little bit. I mean, I think you look at Northwestern now and you look at Northwestern last year, lost 10 in a row. So I think going through it makes you better as well. So, yeah, we're open to a lot of those things.
Richard, are you seeing, are they executing the game plans and then just missing shots and things like that? Or are you seeing a lot of mental errors just in trying to digest what you want them to do out there?
I think that I think they are doing it when things are going well. And then I think when things aren't going well, it's a trust factor of, okay, let's stick with the offense. Let's just screen better. Let's cut harder. Because our offense was pretty darn good the first 2 years. That was never really an issue. So, it's I do think there's it's when things break down, who do we throw it to is a bit of an issue. Where last year I thought we were able to throw it into Mo consistently. And I think Bakari's improving. I really do. So it's not his fault necessarily. But then it's again, the mental side of it. Stick with what you're doing. Stick with the plan and that. And I think where they abandon it is when things aren't going well.
Defensively, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you ever had Richard Coffey talk to the team?
We're thinking about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, trying to figure it out.
Defensively, this team,
Maybe get him to rebound would be better. But
the last last 2 years, you guys were more of a pressing team. This year, you used a lot of zone, and you tried to get these guys to figure out how to play your style, and it hasn't worked. This different lineup versus Nebraska. Do you hope potentially that they can?
Well, the reason why
better?
the reason why we did press and play a lot of zone the first 2 years. We're not as good at it now, obviously, as we were the first 2 years. I always look back. Whenever you play in Indiana, you go back, you watch last year's games. Now, that game was not good, but we were pretty good last year. Now, we lost a lot of close games in conference, but we were really close. We're not even near close to that right now. I played that lineup because of the spirit part of it. I thought that, we played really well first couple minutes. There was a timeout. I loved how connected that group was in a sense of talking to each other, picking each other up, not feeling sorry for themselves, all those things. That's why I went with that lineup. Is it the most talented lineup? No. Does it mean that the guys I took out of the lineup, it's their fault? No. It's just you got to try different things when you're losing like we're losing. I liked it, and we got in foul trouble, and it messed up our whole rhythm. So, Dupree is starting to play well. He's emotionally making defensive mistakes by fouling. He's got to stop doing that. Murph continues to get in foul trouble. It's really hurting us. But I did like that lineup. I mean, that's something we'll probably roll with again. But again, it's not the most talented lineup, but I think it's the most enthusiastic, energetic lineup.
When your defense breaks down, what do you think is the biggest?
That's the problem. That's the problem. Talked about it a lot today and with the team. You look at certain teams, like I watched the Louisville game last night, and they're playing Pitt. Defense breakdown, they got great length on the back end. They can block shots, rebound, those things. We don't have that right now. We don't have a great shot blocking presence. That's something that we just got to continue to harp on. I think Reggie will help us with that certainly next year. We don't have great length when things break down. Like Joey King is trying, but he's got short arms, and he's not that quick, and he just can't get there quick enough. So I do think that the problem is when it breaks down is the rotation side of it, maybe helping each other a little bit more is something we've been talking about.
And the three-point shooting, I know at home especially, has hurt you guys early.
Offensively or defensively?
Defensively, opponents' three-point shooting. Have you noticed any particular reason why that part of it and some of your losses is
I think length is one of them. I really do think length is an issue, getting quick to that guy. We do close out sometimes with our hands down. That's a problem that we work on a lot. And again, I think that we haven't played great at home, and it has affected our intensity, and it's affected how hard we get down on ourselves. And that's natural. Young teams do it. Again, like you look at that Michigan State game last night, I'm watching it going, what are they doing? But young guys, they spiral out of control on the court. I really believe that.
How did Carlos and Joey handle the switch up?
I thought Carlos was really good about it. I thought Joey was trying to be good about it, but I think he got into his head a little bit. He recognized it. He regrouped at halftime and was much better. But I think that, I kept telling them over and over again, it's not a punishment, guys. It's not necessarily your fault. We've got to try different things. I think Joey understood it. I think they both understood it. They were good about it.
Have you talked about some of the freshmen just naturally, their personalities being a little more talkative. Have you talked to them about maybe stepping up just leadership-wise in terms of being the people to bring the team?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, like Ahmad Gilbert has got a long way to go as a player. He shot some ridiculous shots versus Nebraska, but he talks. I mean, he is really, really vocal on the court. He is in timeouts and huddles. He's talking. Dupree is talking. Jordan is talking. So I think I think with you got two seniors in Carlos and Joey. Well, one senior's only played college basketball for 2 years in Carlos, so I don't really consider him a senior. And Joey just kind of, throughout the course of the game, he gets in his own world mentally, and that just happens. Where I do think the other guys are a little bit more vocal. I hate to make you yawn while I'm talking, but players do that all the time. Should I stop, or should I keep going? Am I boring you? Or I think Bakari is a very good talker. Nobody can understand what he's saying, but he does talk.
One more. Did you think, you've talked
thought might be like year one, but
Yeah.
I guess in your conversations over the summer, the contract extension and all that with, I guess it would be Norwood and Mike, maybe some others. Did you lay out that okay, this would be a rebuilding year, but did you ever think it would be this bad?
I did lay that out. That was something I always talked about. I had a strong concern about when I had taken this job. We had a bunch of juniors and seniors, and I recognized it, and I thought, okay, we've got to build around this team a little bit. I think we've got some pieces that we could sneak into an NCAA tournament with that. Obviously, I thought we were extremely close the first year. I still didn't think we were that far away the second year. And then I thought I told those guys, I said, I think we're going to rebuild big time in year 3. Now, did we make some mistakes that led to it being a little bit worse than it should be? Absolutely 100%. When it comes to some recruiting mistakes of taking some guys who we never got anything out of. So I think that compounded on the rebuilding part of it. So I think that led to it being kind of like this right now. I thought we had a chance. We had to make some decisions, okay, with 10 scholarship guys. Jarvis would have been 11. We had 2. We had to make a decision with Reggie and Devontae to where we say, okay, we believe these 2 guys could be impact guys next year, or can we take someone who can help us this year? And we made a decision. We got to take those 2 guys because we believe they can impact. So, I thought that we would definitely take a step backwards in order to take a major step forward. I did think that was going to have to happen. No, I did not think it would be this bad. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I think that guys, I really believe this, I think young guys are under a lot of pressure because of social media, because everything is on TV, and it's getting them to understand it. Maybe we should have done a better job of making sure we had some older guys in here to kind of balance that out. That's something where I look back and say, okay, we can't let that happen again because we really only have one senior, and Carlos is not really a senior in my opinion. And then you've got Bugs, so we're really, really young. But I thought we said, okay, let's take these 2 transfers, let's roll with it a little bit. And whether or not that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's kind of where we're at.
I just wanted to ask Indiana, the way they're playing right now, do you think that this is the best team catching them at this point that you've played so far?
Oof, they looked pretty darn good against Ohio State. Gosh, they looked awesome.
Even without Blackman, it seems like maybe they're even playing better.
Yeah, I think they've got great talent. I mean, I think that they, some guys can afford to lose a guy like that. Some teams can't. They can because they've got depth. They play fast. They play hard. Coach Crean does a great job with them. So, yeah, I think it's probably pretty accurate to say right now catching a team playing their best basketball, yeah, I'd say Indiana's playing about as – they're going to walk into this building extremely confident because they beat a very good Ohio State team at home. And, again, Ohio State was like Michigan State was last night, like we were the last 2 games. They couldn't fix it on the court because of their youth. So we need all the energy. We need all the enthusiasm we can get from the fans. We need to 11:30 start always concerns me. Get these guys going, get them amped up, get some mimosas passed out outside or something for the fans, get them going.
Media, maybe?
Media as well, sure.
The game story?
Sure, yeah. And but I think more than anything is getting some spirit from these guys is key tomorrow. But yeah, we're playing a very good Indiana team.